Hey, what's happening, ladies and gentlemen? In this video, we're going to be going over warping. We're going to be going over warping in very simple terms and in a simple way. We're going to be using a extreme example, but it's an easy one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to record in any like finger drumming, and then I'm going to warp it. It's not going to be synced to the BPM. I'm going to try to I'm going to play it. I'm going to forget what the BPM is. Okay, there's one. So that is the extent of my musical ability. So I'll have something on the offbeat now. Okay, now we have a hi-hat. So we have our two sounds here, and they're obviously not synced up in terms of the BPM of the track. And it sounds pretty bad. So what we'll do is we'll select the portion we want to warp, which would be this portion right here. The best way for your beginning and your warping percussive material, as in like kick, anything with a kick or something you know the BPM of. If you're a DJ, this helps. You right click on this area, you select quarter, so these lines show up on the quarter note. Now you're going to use this as a reference, alright? And then you select down here into your clip, and you go to where the beat kind of begins. Move it to the beginning, right click the arrow, set 1-1 here. Okay, so now you have that. So then it's just a matter of double clicking the beginning of the next beat to make a yellow marker, and then moving it over and look up here and then see how that's gray and then white. That'll tell you 1, 2. Okay, boom, right? And then you do the same here, right? It's about right. And then you double click, yeah. So the warp markers kind of show you where you warp, but you can warp on any area, which is weird. It's not what I'm used to since I've been using Ableton 5. Anyway, so you double click, move it over, right? And you just you do that, and this is basic warping, right? And obviously that's a lower BPM, so I'll lower it, and we're almost done, right? You can see up here it matches, right? You understand? So looks fantastic. We'll give that a play. So that's warped. That is a warped kind of thing. So now we will select, we'll just select that part. I want to add in this hi-hat, but the hi-hat pattern does not start on the kick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little trick. Select the beginning. There's an attack on this, which is fine. Set 1-1 here, right? Then I'm going to warp it just like I did the kick. And bear with me while I drill this into your head. Double click. Ableton 9, if you're using Ableton 9, it has a lovely kind of, grayscale difference, which lets you know whoever put that in deserves a raise. This is a little too early. Move it back. And warping is just Ableton warping is probably the best warping. So yeah, okay, we have this here now, and what we'll do now is we'll right click on the 8th. So now then we move it over, it snaps. We're now on the offbeat. So now right? So now we have that, which is really cool. So what warping does is there's two ways to warp. You can warp like a conventional. Here, I'll show you. You can warp like a conventional CD, like a vinyl record. You select what kind of transposing you want, and you hit repitch, and that repitches everything. So what you can do is you can turn warp off and then transpose this. Right? So we'll undo that. So that's automatically warp. Ableton warps things pretty well automatically. So you have that. And that's fine. If you wanted to slow down the BPM, it works too. Right? But if you want to keep the pitch like the same key, the same pitch, you'd use one of these options. Now there's different options for different things. So you can have it on beats to preserve the transients, which is the beginning part. So every beginning part, that's when it kind of re-triggers the warping, which is weird. Right, so it's focused on transients. You can focus on sixteenths too, because each 16th there's a new sound that's introduced. This is getting kind of advanced and it's a little hard to explain. I should also point out that you can pitch this up to an extreme value or by semitones or by very fine amounts. So that's the beats, and beats, what it'll do is you'll hear it. I'm going to try to explain this. So right now we have we'll have a 32 and we'll have it repeating, so you can hear it now. So it's preserving the pitch, not slowing it down like a record. So it's repeating a part over and over. It's repeating a part synced to a 30-second of a bar, right? So, and it's only repeating once. But if we want to repeat it over and over again, that's another way you can kind of preserve it. Sounds weird, right? And that's at 32. If we go 16th, it sounds completely different too. We have it pitched down very, very low, so you can really hear it, right? And at eighths, right? So depending on your audio, if it's a piece of audio like this, like okay, it's very, syncopated. It's not a vocal like my voice. Doing this to my voice would sound kind of weird. What you can do is, within reason, set it 16ths and repeats the note once. Right, that sounds more natural because it's preserving each part. If that makes any sense. If you want to preserve the transients, Ableton will automatically detect. It'll ignore, all this fun stuff. It's right down the bottom there, if you can see it. Hope you can. It'll preserve the transients. Here, I'll move that down. Oops. There, transients. Sorry. We have our transients here. And what that does is that it starts the sound when you get from a quiet sound to a loud sound, and it'll vary between any of these and more. So that's beats in a way. You'd want it to go repeat back and forth, which is a technique when you're microsampling. It'll sound more natural. It won't sound like repeat, repeat, repeat. It'll repeat and then go back and then go back. And you'd have to go really down, really, really low to hear the difference. For percussive material with a lot of transients. Tones sounds weird. I'd use that for like a bass maybe. It uses like a grain size, right? And that preserves the high end more, as opposed to complex, which basically takes the high end out. Right, and a texture is more for, say, a vocal, or very like changed, like a sample material that's more pitched up or pitched down than it should be, in a way. And it's all about finding where the best balance is. Right, and you get some really cool effects with that. So right now, that's you keep that in your head and play around with it. You'll slowly begin to understand what it does. I don't even know what it does. So with that being said, this was recorded at a different BPM than the project. So if we repitch it, we get some weird stuff going on. Right, you can hear it's kind of speeding up because these are different kind of distances between each other. And right, the original pitch of the kick is at 98, right? So like we're pitching it up, several percent. So what we can do, understanding how the transposition works, we'll go beats. We'll have it repeat once, because in this, the sound, every quarter note, every quarter bar, we have a new sound. So right now it's preserving the transients, and there's, it could be triggered twice, which makes it sound unnatural. So what we'll do a comparison. Comparison will transpose it up. Not too bad. So what we'll do is we'll go quarter and repeat once. So now you can really hear it when we pitch it up. That makes any sense. It keeps it more natural instead of, because it's repeating over and over again, as opposed to the transients, as opposed to a quarter. So the quarter will preserve this part and just repitch all of these, starting from this point and ending at this point. If that makes any sense. I know that's pretty heavy, but that's how you would warp. Complex and Complex Pro, it sounds okay if you have a lot of material that's like a full track in a DJ set or whatever. It's best if you're not going crazy with the BPM. In the warping, I would go beats and transients because it does a good job, and it's easy on the CPU. Complex and Complex Pro, I believe it's licensed from another company to Ableton. So, and it sounds odd sometimes. It sounds good on vocals only for me. Repitch if that's what you're into, and texture and tones for leads. So what I'll do is, and there's fun ways you can use warping as an effect. And if you're using Ableton, warping is probably your best friend. So we have that. So what I want to do is you can select, grain size, and you can pitch it down to an extreme fashion. Right? Not so much, I guess. Right? You can take that, pitch it down. That's set 17. Consolidate. Yes, I know. And you can use like pitching as an effect, and it's really interesting to kind of use it that way. Right? And you can just do weird stuff. And then you say, okay, well, cool. I found like a new kind of stab. And you could use that as a clap that sounds more interesting, or an offbeat kind of bass thing. We'll have that, you know. You know, as an example. So that's warping, and warping is really powerful. What else am I not going over? Yeah, that's basically it. Don't worry about slave. Yeah, and just experiment with the beats in particular. You can get some nice effects depending on your loop. Say, remember, complicated kind of percussive loops, 16ths. If it's like techno, like, you know, like that, and you know, and if you can repitch, and that'll make sure you have the highest quality. And if it's like a little bit low, that's fine. But if you must, the transients is really good. But 16th is really good too if you want to kind of pitch up each kind of sound. It's really fun. And for kicks, always quarter. So hopefully I explained that really well and you understand it. Takes a while. Warping is like the most confusing thing for people, but it's actually pretty easy once you get